One of my favorite toys out in the market right now is Anki's Cosmo. The reason I like it so much, besides its overwhelming cuteness, is because it's a testament to how far AI tech has reached since this. But this progress is slightly unnerving too, because it shows that there's clearly a market for more and more human AIs. The prime example of this being Gatebox, an AI designed to be a companion. But as these AIs continue to improve, an important question to ask is, at what point does an AI deserve rights? This issue is brought up in Star Trek, The Next Generation, Season 2, Episode 9, The Measure of a Man. The episode revolves around whether or not Data, an android, holds the right to choose when Starfleet Commander Maddox decides to disassemble him so that he can learn to replicate him. Not wanting to be disassembled by Maddox, Data decides to resign from Starfleet. However, Maddox argues that Data is Starfleet property and therefore he does not hold the right to choose. Of course, this doesn't fly with Picard, and ultimately a hearing is set to decide on whether or not Data has rights. Riker and Maddox are on the prosecution, and Picard and Data are on the defense. Riker argues Data is a machine created by a human to serve human needs. Its responses are dictated by an elaborate system created by a man, and therefore he is a machine that is Starfleet property in the same way a computer is. He ends by activating Data's hidden off switch, ending with the line,
"Pinocchio is broken. Its strings have been cut."
However, it is important to note that human brains are just as manipulable, and if society willed it, similar emergency off switches could be installed in humans. Going back to the case, Picard argues that Riker's points are irrelevant. The fact that Data is a machine is irrelevant, because humans are machines too, we're just built of different materials. While Data is a machine of complex mechanical properties, humans are just machines of complex organic properties. To say Data doesn't deserve rights because he is constructed differently would be the equivalent of saying an alien doesn't deserve rights because their physiology is different. To build off of Picard's point here, the fact that Data was constructed to help humans is also irrelevant. A parent may have a dream of who they want their child to be, but the child retains the freedom to choose whether or not they will follow it. And if they do, they have the authority to pursue it in whichever fashion they please. Even if Data's creator made Data to help humans, if Data is sentient, then Data should still retain the right to decide whether or not he wants to help humans, and if he does, he should retain the freedom to choose how he goes about doing so. Going back to the case, Picard then calls Maddox up to the stand to ask him,
"Is your contention that Lieutenant Commander Data is not a sentient being and therefore not entitled to all the rights reserved for all life forms within this Federation?"
Maddox confirms, leading Picard to question him.
"What is required for sentience?"
Maddox lays out 3 categories: intelligence, consciousness, and self-awareness. Data has the ability to learn, understand, and cope with new situations he is being placed in, therefore he is intelligent. Data is aware of his own character, his ego, and how important aforementioned child is in his ability to choose, therefore he is self-aware. Data knows the situation he is in and is actively taking in information and responding in the best way he can, therefore he is fully conscious. Picard argues to call a being like Data property would be the equivalent of slavery. To create thousands of Datas and not give them the right to choose would be the equivalent of enslaving a race. This now becomes clear to Maddox, who up until now didn't view Data as a sentient being, due to the attachments he held on what a machine is. To Maddox, a machine was always something that is made to improve the lives of humans, nothing more. Maddox never thought it was possible that a machine could reach a level of sentience, which blinded him to the possibility that Data was sentient. The court rules in favor of Data, acknowledging him as a sentient being and granting him all the rights that come with it. As for Maddox, now enlightened that a machine has become a sentient being, he shares in a warm goodbye with Data, and for the first time, instead of referring to Data as an it, he refers to Data as a he, acknowledging his personhood.
"He's remarkable."
You didn't call him it?
Our perception of rights are due to what we as humans view as unjust, so there's a chance we'll never create an AI that would want rights. However, if human-like AIs such as Gatebox, Cosmo, and even Siri are any indication, it's likely that we eventually will. What we as a society must decide before then is how are we going to treat these AIs, and what parameters will we put in place for measuring whether or not a being is sentient or not. Now, of course, there's a question of what we can do to ensure these AIs don't end up being harmful for humanity, but that's for part 2 of this series. It's easy to dismiss anything that isn't human as not deserving the same rights as us, but for a species with a long history of regretful discrimination, perhaps we should proceed with some humility and concern. As humans, we hold a very long history in not giving equal beings the same rights because we have thought of them as different in ways that we now know are arbitrary. And perhaps in the future we'll see the consequences under which we are born are irrelevant.
What's the first thing you remember, Data?
Opening my eyes. Looking into the eyes of the Tripoli landing party. They believed the signal device sensed their presence and activated me.
Then this very spot was your birthplace.
Thanks for watching. I recently started watching TNG after I found out about the plot line for The Measure of a Man, and although it's pretty dated in a few aspects, it's a great show that I recommend to you if you're interested in the future, sci-fi, space, or even culture in general. The Measure of a Man was one of the first episodes I watched, but I'm only on Season 1, Episode 19, so please put a spoiler tag if you're going to comment with any plot details past that point. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.